Hi everybody and welcome to Tunis, and today you are going to accompany me on 3 Saudia Airlines Business Class flights as we fly from Tunis to Jeddah, Jeddah to Riyadh and then Riyadh on to Bangkok. I'm expecting to show you no less than 3 different types of seats. I'm going to talk you through the softer stuff that make the business class experience that much better. So the check-in process, do you get fast-track security? What are the lounges like, including Saudia's 2 flagship lounges at its new Jeddah terminal and at Riyadh? And once you're on the aircraft, what's the service like? What's the food like? Is there Wi-Fi? And what's the in-flight entertainment like? And if you wondered why I've chosen Tunis to Bangkok as my route, then hang around to the end of the video because I'll talk to you then about the booking process, how much I paid, and by the way, I'm not using points, this is a cash booking, do it because it is a bit of a bargain. Okay, this is so far kind of what I was expecting of Tunis Airport. It's kind of a bit chaotic really. I started queuing for the main Saudia check-in queue. And I showed my boarding pass to a member of staff and she pointed me to a separate queue for business class, which is actually just as long. And I did go to the desk and say, do I have to get a separate boarding pass? And apparently, as I thought you might do, you do. So I've got what looks like a 10 or 15 minute queue to presumably get my boarding pass reprinted. So fast track, and it was printed on the top right hand corner of the boarding pass, as you can see. But the reality is that fast track doesn't exist here. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely surprised. I wasn't expecting it to, but I'm not sure why you'd put it on the boarding pass if it doesn't exist. And neither is it clear which lounge you go to. However, I was quite impressed because I got an email from Saudia, presumably triggered by my check-in process, to say, go to the Tunisair lounge. So, and that's where I went. And as you can see, it's actually a lot better than I expected. I didn't have great expectations because of what I've read online, but in fact it's okay. The biggest problem, it's a little bit like the British Airways Gallery South Lounge at Heathrow, is it gets really, really busy, and it was a real struggle to find somewhere to sit. The food was kind of okay. It was a halfway house between breakfast and salads. You're not going to kind of write home about it, but having said that, it's better than nothing. And they've got a separate bar that I'm not sure if it serves alcohol, to be honest. I think it possibly does, but it certainly serves quite nice coffee. Okay, so we've just boarded, and there was a really clear queue for business class, and they were turning people away who weren't priority. So I got on I was about the 4th passenger on, I think. There was a second passport check just before the aircraft, and then another security check as you just got on. And so far, I'm really impressed, I have to say. Here's the seat, as you can see. It's a recliner as opposed to a lie flat seat. But nevertheless, it feels really comfortable. My cabin attendant Dora has come and introduced herself. She's really friendly. All the crew have been really smiley, and so far very lovely. I've been given a hot towel and a drink of the Saudi signature. I think she said it was date juice, so let's just give that a go. Yeah, that is quite good actually. It's very sweet. I think it is date, but it's a kind of smoothie, and that's really tasty. These are the headphones that you get. I'll try those in a bit and see what sort of quality they are. Okay. Lovely, thank you. Okay, thank you. So the meals arrived. We're about an hour and 20 minutes into the flight. We didn't get a menu, and we haven't had an amenity kit, so that's obviously a standard thing on these relatively short flights. But the meal arrived. It's all arrived on a single tray. I got a choice of chicken with couscous, beef with vegetables, or fish. I went for the beef. which looks really good, I have to say. So it's accompanied by a little kind of Greek salad, what looks like chicken, a little chicken salad, and then some sort of dessert. Really nicely presented. The salad was very tasty, and then you get a couple of bread rolls as well, and some butter, and these really cute little salt and pepper pots. So let's go back to the seat for a second. I think this is what they call a recliner seat, but I'm not 100% sure because it's not actually working properly. So the leg rest works fine, and that's probably in many ways the most important bit for a day flight. So it supports my legs, but neither the kind of forward and backward function nor the back reclining function work. So I feel really sorry for the cabin service manager because he has done everything he possibly can to make it work. He's reset it, he's had a good look at it, but he's rushed off his feet because the in-flight entertainment system, I think, is giving him problems for everybody as well. So I cannot fault their attempts to fix this, but unfortunately I can't really show you the seat in full function because it's clearly not working properly. So we're about 30 minutes from landing now. We've just started our descent into Jeddah. So this has been a really good flight, I have to say. So it has exceeded my expectations. Some of the reviews that I'd read about this particular route were not great, but in fact I think it's been really good. The cabin crew have worked incredibly hard. They have not stopped from the moment that they were released from their seats, and even now with 30 minutes to go to landing, they're still serving tea and coffee. They've just given us a Twix bar, and there's a couple of bits I think that were missing for me. So obviously the seat didn't work properly, which is a bit of a shame. That's not the cabin crew's fault at all, and the cabin manager did his absolute best to get it working, but to no avail. The Wi-Fi, I did connect to the Wi-Fi and I signed up for the free package, which should have allowed me to use WhatsApp, but I couldn't get any messages to send. A bit surprisingly, there's no menus given out, which I thought was a bit of a shame because it would have been nice to know what the food choices were and what you were actually being served, although the cabin crew were very knowledgeable about what they were offering when they came round for the menu choices. But other than that, and they're pretty small gripes really, I think this has been a really strong offering by Saudia, particularly as long as you make the comparison with British Airways Club Europe, for example, and the kind of standard European short haul, similar length 3 to 4 hour flights. You wouldn't get anything like this. You might get it in the US, although probably the seat wouldn't be as big, but certainly for a 3.5, just under 4 hour flight, I think this is absolutely great. Let's have a look now, see what the lounge is like at Jeddah. So I've made it to the Al Fursan lounge here at Jeddah International Airport. It's not actually the lounge that I was expecting to be in, because what I hadn't realised is that I'm in the domestic terminal, because domestic and international here at Jeddah are completely separate. Now I had to buy a visa in order to enter Saudi Arabia, albeit literally for about 60 seconds, which was not what I was expecting. So I'm in the domestic lounge. It's actually really good, very, very high quality lounge. So in terms of facilities, this lounge is pretty good, apart from not having any showers, which is a little bit of a drawback. It's got a luggage storage facility. It's got loads and loads of seating. There's tons of space here. It's got a nice eating area, a good selection of food, and it's got these quite groovy power points where they've actually got cables. So rather than using your own cable, you can use one of their cables to charge your items, which seems to make a lot of sense to me. One thing I have discovered about Saudi Arabia is actually just how friendly the people are. So I have been here before about 12 months ago, and on that visit everybody was really friendly, and this time it's been exactly the same. Even the immigration officer, who was a female officer, was incredibly helpful and smiled considerably as she took $120 off me, perhaps not surprisingly, and told me that I was welcome back in Saudi Arabia at any time. Right, so flight number 2 with Saudia. So this is a long-haul configured 777-300. It's configured in a 1-2-1 reverse herringbone with good old proper lie-flat seats, which I will endeavour to show you once we get going. It's definitely a more roomy seat than the last one. As you can see, there's loads of storage. Feels to me like the footwell is reasonably wide and certainly very long. The TV screen appears to be pretty decent size, and there's a great selection of power, USB and 3-pin and American plugs. I've already been given a hot towel and some nuts. Well, I say hot, it was a kind of lukewarm towel actually, but it was still very welcome. I feel it's a shame really that this isn't a longer flight, because I think this would be a pretty comfortable way to spend 8 or 10 hours. You don't have there's no closing door, and there's no kind of privacy partition as far as I can see. Wow, that was a pretty impressive bit of work by the cabin crew. So in probably the 20 minutes from boarding to takeoff, they managed to serve nuts and hot towels, clear that away. Then they came round and offered pre-takeoff drinks. So I had a date smoothie, and they came round with dates and Saudi coffee. They cleared that away, and they also took my main meal order. So there's no menus again, but I had a choice of prawns, I think it was a prawn risotto actually, or chicken and rice. So I've gone for the chicken and rice. They played the safety brief as soon as we started pushing back from the stand. So we're 25 minutes late pushing back, and in the 8 minutes between pushing back and actually being airborne, they managed to play all of the Arabic version of the safety brief and most of the English version, but the English version didn't actually stop playing until the gear had gone up. So I guess we were at about 1,000 feet. The first time I've had that. It's obviously a very short taxi, and the cabin crew was seated before we started the takeoff roll. So the cabin crew on this flight are very smiley, very efficient, perhaps not quite as friendly as the last group, but I think that's probably because A, we're running a little bit late, and B, they've obviously got an awful lot of work to get in on what is going to be probably about an hour and 20-minute flight. Just put the seat into bed mode, and it's of decent length. I mean, I'm 6'1", 6'2", and it certainly accommodates my feet. It does taper down at the end, as most of these kind of herringbone lie flat seats do, but it seems pretty comfortable to me. It's not completely flat. It feels like there is a bit of a bump in it. Whether on a long haul flight they would provide some sort of mattress to make it more comfortable, I'm not sure, but I could see myself quite comfortably spending 8 or 10 hours in a seat like this. Cabin crew have just brought my food around, and I'll show you what we're getting. So it's all come on one tray, and I've got what looks like a hummus and chickpea starter with a little salad. I've got my main course, which looks really nice, a chicken with rice dish. There's some, I think they're pita breads, some sort of a tomato dip, and then I'm guessing that's like a flan or something like that, or maybe a cheesecake for dessert. The sweet little salt and pepper pots, and the Diet Coke that I asked for. So we're well into our descent into Riyadh now. We've probably got about 25 minutes to go until we land. This has been a pretty impressive flight. I know it's perhaps not a true measure of a short haul flight because we've got a long haul aircraft, but for me the key thing is that if I had to spend 8 or 10 hours in this seat, I would do so quite happily. The service has been very effective, it's been efficient. Perhaps not quite as smiley and friendly as the last flight, but I think that's just because they're very rushed and they know it's a short flight and they don't really have the opportunity to build up much of a rapport with the passengers. The Wi-Fi worked this time, which is a step forward. I think the in-flight entertainment system is probably better than the last flight, so it's got a slightly different branding to it, so I suspect that it may have some more content. I've got a fairly tight connection in Riyadh. I've got about 2 hours and I don't know whether I have to change terminal. I'll find out when I get there. So I'm looking forward to seeing you possibly in the lounge at Riyadh if we have time, but failing that, our next aircraft is a 787, which I look forward to showing you around. I'll see you in a few moments. At the gate at Jeddah, I'd asked whether I needed to change terminals at Riyadh for my connection and was told I didn't. In reality, you arrive at the domestic Terminal 5 at Riyadh and have to pass through passport control and take a transit bus, for which I had to wait 20 minutes to get to the Saudi Terminals 3 and 4. This all took about 40 minutes, including a wait for a security scan at the international terminal. I still had time to go to the lounge, which was quite a letdown compared to Jeddah. It felt dated and the seating area was busy. Food choice was okay, but not to the standard of the lounge at Jeddah. The Starbucks in the terminal was closed for cleaning, so I was quite glad that they called boarding soon after that. So flight number 3, a 787 this time, Hotel Zulu Alfa Romeo 12, if that interests you. So I've got a little kind of lie flat kind of suite type thing. There's no privacy door, as there wasn't on the 777. It feels slightly more constrained than the 777. So I think it's because if we look at this bit here, it just is a little bit smaller than the 777. Feels a little bit less substantial, and my impression is that the TV screen is a little bit smaller. But I couldn't be sure that that's the case. You've got a fair amount of privacy, so your neighbour kind of can't see you, and you certainly can't see your neighbour's face. They've already come round. A very smiley cabin crew member came round and welcomed me, and gave me a hot towel, asked me what pre-flight drink I'd like, so I've gone for the lemon and mint, which is really nice this time. If you have one of the centre 2 seats, then even if you're a solo traveller, I would say you've got quite a bit of privacy, because your feet are pointing towards the person who's in the other seat. So and there is a little privacy screen that you can pull across in order to separate yourselves out. Right, so let's have a little look at what's inside our snazzy looking amenity kit. So it's in the Saudi retro colours. It looks very smart. So we have very nice looking, very attractive eye shade, pair of in-flight socks that would also double up, I think, as running socks, a hand lotion from Spreckenhaus, certainly smells very nice. And we've got a more Spreckenhaus, not quite sure what this stuff is actually, doesn't even say on it, I don't think. Amber Infatuation. I'll have to open that and find out what it is. We've got some lip butter, a face cleanser, a dental kit, so I'm guessing that is toothbrush and toothpaste. We've got a set of earplugs which will come in very useful because there are a couple of kids in business, and a little pot of Spreckenhaus. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Spreckenhaus is, I guess, the kind of company that they have formed an alliance with to provide the products for their Amenity kit. So yeah, that's a very nice little haul, and quite a nice little bag there to take away and use for something in the future. Before takeoff on this flight, as well as the Amenity kit, we were given menus, the hot towel and drink, which it turns out from looking at the menu to be a lemon mojito, plus more Saudi coffee and dates. The service on this flight is dine on demand, and I was asked when I'd like to eat and if I'd like to reserve my requested meal. Because I was pretty tired, I opted to eat at the end of the flight as late as possible so I could go to sleep straight after takeoff. I was told I'd be woken an hour and a half before landing. So let's just talk about this lie flat mode for this bed for a moment, because I'm a bit intrigued by it. As you can hopefully see, when the bed is in fully flat mode, and I have tested this kind of quite a few times just to make sure I haven't made a mistake, and the cabin crew member said no, the gap doesn't get filled, so there is a gap between your footrest and the end of the bed of, I would say, probably about 20 or 30 centimetres, something like that. So it does feel a bit odd when you're lying down, and I don't know why you would design a seat like this, why you wouldn't design it so it goes all the way across so it is a proper bed. Interestingly, from a length point of view, my feet, even when I'm kind of fully stretched out with my head on the pillow, my feet don't touch the end of the footwell, so it doesn't seem to me to be a length thing, but do let me know in the comments if I'm doing something wrong, or if this is regarded as a bit of a design flaw in this particular lie flat bed. And if you're watching this video thinking, oh my goodness, what a first world problem because I normally travel economy, then yeah, you're absolutely right, it is, but I'm intrigued by it. On some long-haul flights, Saudia employs sky chefs. They allow you to be offered a pretty extensive food selection, and I elected to go for the a la carte menu of cheese platter, scrambled eggs and bakery items. My table was set with a cloth and the cutlery as opposed to being presented on a tray, and my breakfast was cooked to perfection, including fresh bread and croissant which were warmed. They even managed to find some ketchup and serve it in a little pot. My only regret was not being more adventurous, hungry or having sufficient time to try some of the other dishes. Cabin crew came round with a tray of sweets just before landing, along with an excellent mug of hot tea. Now, I promised to share the cost of my flight. I paid £580 or €695 for a one-way flight from Tunis to Bangkok. So, how would I sum up my Saudia experience? Well, for me, the best and most memorable element was the onboard service, which was consistently good on all three flights. It felt to me as if the crew were genuinely welcoming and recognised that their role was to make you feel well treated. The food was also a high point, although menus on the first two flights would have complemented it well. Now, I flew back to the UK on Etihad, and as you'll see from my upcoming review, Saudia is well ahead of Etihad in respect of their service. I, broadly speaking, got a premium experience on Saudia, but there are drawbacks. It's a dry airline, and the lack of alcohol in Saudia's own lounges and on board will be a showstopper for some, although my own experience is that I felt better for it. The Riyadh transit, including the lounge, was a low point on the trip. I elected to put that extra leg in to give me more to review, but my recommendation would be to take the flight direct from Jeddah to Bangkok. The seat on the 787 is acceptable, but my Etihad seat on the same aircraft type was more comfortable, even the controversial backward-facing ones. The 777 seat, on the other hand, was better, although you need to be aware that Saudia has more than one type of seat on its 777s. The domestic Saudia lounge in Jeddah was excellent, but Qatar Airways lounge in Doha, and especially Etihad's lounge at Abu Dhabi, are better. All in all, Saudia doesn't quite reach the standards set in business class by the likes of Qatar, Etihad or Emirates, but it comes pretty close, certainly enough that I'd be happily fly with them again if the price is right. Thanks for watching, and look out for upcoming reviews of Etihad and Malaysian Business Class, as well as British Airways Premium and Economy.